What line of business is generally more corrupt than people realize? Towing. Companies who tow cars are shady as absolute FCK. I had my car towed from the scene of an accident. And I couldn't get an insurance estimate for 4 days because the tow company claimed they didn't have it. Then they charged the insurance company for 4 days of storage after I went to their lot myself and took pictures of my car sitting there. Here in WA, they can sell your car at an auction if they have it for 100 hours. A friend's car got towed from an accident. And it took him nearly that long to find it. I gave him a ride there. And they already had his car on a car carrier to take to an auction. He almost lost his car. Sounds like they have every incentive to pretend that your car isn't in their lot for those 100 hours. Susan G. Komen and the other disease awareness charities. Most of the money donated does not reach the scientists and doctors actually researching cures and treatments. To add to this, the pink breast cancer ribbon isn't trademarked. Meaning anyone can slap that sh*t on anything to make it seem charitable when it's really just shady marketing. Mortuary services. You do not need to be embalmed. You do not need an expensive casket. And they are overcharging you for everything. It's a disgusting extortion racket no one does anything about. Worked in the funeral business. Can confirm. I used to be written up on evaluations for not upselling caskets, vaults, and urns to families. Legally you don't even need an urn. If you provide the funeral home with a container they have to use it. I put someone in a coffee can once just like Donnie in The Big Lebowski. We had our mother's ashes put in a cardboard box because we had our own plans. The funeral home didn't give us any problem at all. Nice guys. Education. Specifically the companies that publish textbooks as well as College Board. The company that has a monopoly on standardized tests in the US. The College Board has lobbied politicians to introduce bills that would have the government pay the standardized test fees for certain students. They also sell students' data. And it's not like students can opt out of taking the test to avoid their data being sold. Yelp Better Business Bureau. Basically it is a shakedown to remove poor reviews. Former Yelp employee here. I can say that. At least when I worked there. There were a ton of shady things the company did. And so many valid complaints against them. I was so glad when I got out of there. And have never once looked back. But the whole pay us money to remove reviews thing is legitimately a myth. They definitely aren't the most above board place. But that is factually not something they did. The thing people always talk about is not pay us money to remove reviews, it's pay us and magically the order of reviews changes. So that good reviews float to the top and bad reviews float to the bottom. It's like they have two sorting algorithms. One for businesses that are partners and one for everyone else. Academic publishing. It's not necessarily corruption. But it's a really f***ed up system. Basically researchers do all the work. Then they send their papers for publication. Other researchers review their articles for free. And when the article is accepted the publisher asks for $40 from each reader to read one article. And 100% of the money goes back to the publisher. The researchers who wrote the paper do not get 1 cent. It's one of the most profitable industries out there. Despite being completely predatory. The thing is, researchers need to publish in specific journals to get tenure or to get funded. And so they are always trying to publish in the top rated journals instead of publishing in open science venues. Nursing homes. Doesn't matter if it's the good ones. Their main goal is to get as much money out of the residents and give them shitty quality care and places to live. Recently a sweet lady I knew passed away and her family was forced to go in and remove her stuff the day she died because this shitty place were now charging them by the day. And X200B. The nursing home my nana was in tried to do that. The lady had a box. A single box. I was fuming. Luckily my brother got there first, so rather than a shouting match he just got the charge dropped amicably because he is more intelligent than me. Autism Speaks. FCK Autism Speaks. This. If you were considering a donation to AS, give it to the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network instead. Autism $peaks is less about helping autistic people and more about helping autism mommies feel better about playing the martyr. Like, I'm pretty sure it's tougher on your autistic kid hearing how you think they're a burden. Karen. In my country, police are some of the most corrupt government servants. They need to pass a very competitive exam to even be considered for the job. They need to pay bribes to the police recruitment board to get into the force after passing the exam. They need to pay bribes to the placement board after training and compulsory rural service to get a posting to an area of their choice. They need to keep ministers, politicians, local gangs protected to keep earning extra money. After this, they expect you to pay at least $100 for every time they stop you in traffic. They are arrogant AF. They have to work 12 hours a day and will take out their frustration on any common man who tries to get help from them. They will normally list stolen mobiles as lost so that they do not have to investigate and the crime stats remain in check. They normally, but reluctantly, help anyone who is well connected or can pay them something extra to do their job. They do not care about the common man and believe that the laws exist only so that they can extort more money from the tax-paying citizens. Their motto is to wring the last buck out of the common man, terrorize the population, help only the rich and powerful, while not paying heed to the citizens' call for help. They are the Indian police. I believe most of the above rant will apply to many other countries' states' police. Mega churches in the US. These guys are stealing money hand over fist through the use of flashy sermons and trumped up versions of how the Bible actually works. Not to mention the fact that most of the donations they receive help the people that own a church pay for private jets and mansions. Even if there's a catastrophe in their neighborhood, they can't be bothered to send some money their way. After that last tornado in Missouri, a local mega church didn't donate a dime. Meanwhile, a local casino donated a large sum of money to the victims. Yup. Joel Osteen didn't do shit here in Houston during Harvey. I lived right by the church and there was no water like he tried to say. Meanwhile, Mattress Mac opened all his stores for people and did a ton to help. IT help from chain companies. Pretty much just Best Buy at this point, but they gouge on their services, or at least did several years ago when I last looked. Not only do they overcharge for their services, but usually will go over the estimated time for the repair. The reason for them taking so long is that there is usually only one person in the geek squad who can actually do repairs, and all the other people are more or less cashiers with maybe some minor troubleshooting experience. This is also why they send so many things out for repairs instead of doing them in store. You should just take it to a local computer repair shop instead. They will probably do it for half the price in half the time, and will probably give you some recommendations on how to prevent thieving issues in the future. Don't forget the Apple Store. Older generations of iMacs, circa 2013 or so, featured an easily accessible and removable panel on the back that allowed you to update RAM, video card, etc. Newer iMac models are almost a single piece. Installing RAM requires the entire back cover to be removed, leaving the screen highly vulnerable and susceptible to breaking. The cost to fix the screen at the Apple Store is nearly the cost of just buying a new iMac outright. If that's not planned product failure corruption, I don't know what is. I feel like only 5% of crypto-related businesses are ever actually legit. Like, people know there's a lot of sketchiness in that industry. I've just seen so many invest craploads in it anyway and wind up massively screwed. E.g. MT, Gox, Quadriga, etc. Then they have basically zero recourse because crypto is decentralized and therefore incredibly difficult to trace for law enforcement. That actually isn't too far off. I'm in online marketing and 2 years ago there were so many crypto focused businesses, many of which are gone. There were even people advertising their pump and dump services. Crypto might someday be something, but right now it's the shadiest of shady investments. It's like what penny stocks were in the 90s. I would rather invest in a F King money market account. Pest control. You can buy almost every single thing we use yourself online without a license. For the price you pay for one service, you can get enough stuff to do it yourself for years. Also, almost all major companies now will spray the outside only if you aren't there, because we're required to complete a certain number of jobs a day. So if you never confirmed the appointment we made for you that you never even knew about, guess what? You're still getting sprayed. What can I do about annoying gnats? IDK if they actually are gnats, because the vinegar and dish soap trick didn't work. They look like really tiny flies, and my only solution has been putting those stick bug traps by windows. But they still keep coming. Auto mechanics. There are plenty of honest shops out there. But there are also lots of places that won't think twice about charging for unnecessary repairs. And even for work they haven't actually done. Make sure you're going to someone you know you can trust. My mother's car was running rough, so she took it to a chain shop. They told her that it needed this list of 5 things and that it would be over $400. She then had me look at it, since I'm a hobbyist car mechanic. Nothing on that list that they gave her was wrong or needing work. It was all a lie. And the real problem wasn't on that list, and was one that I noticed in under 2 minutes of actual looking, and fixed it with 10 minutes of work and a $35 part. If she paid that shop for all of that unnecessary work, her car would still be running poorly, because they couldn't even be bothered to actually try to fix the issue while they were trying to scam her. Hospitals. A lot of people think that health insurance are the cause of crazy medical cost. But hospitals artificially inflate the cost of all services in what is called a charge master, which is a list of the cost of all services that they do not disclose. They raise the cost of services so high so that when they make a deal with insurance, a 50% discount of something that has been made 10x more expense still gives them a huge profit. It's twofold. Hospitals inflate because insurance only pays part. The insurance says they'll pay less, and hospitals inflate again so they get the same amount of payment. The only person who loses is the patient. At the end of the day, we need a government-led master price list to standardize, otherwise nothing will change. Justice prison systems in the United States of America. How district attorneys, state employees, and judges are allowed to have financial interests in occupancy of the prison systems without so much as a second look is disgusting and criminal. Came here to say this. The private prison system especially is a sickening thing, no matter how you look at it. Corruption and inhumane treatment on so many levels. A lot of small businesses and charities are just ways for extremely wealthy to hide money from taxes. Like Leona Helmsley, the female Donald Trump, once said, "We don't pay taxes. Only the little people pay taxes." Double quote. This is why I never donate to any charitable foundation when at Walmart or any other store. When the self-checkout asks if you want to donate, etc., it's just a way for Walmart to be a charitable foundation and skip out on paying taxes. That kind of shit needs to be illegal. On the opposite foot, casinos are generally much less corrupt than you would think. There is so much regulation, and the threat of losing a license is a big deal. Casinos don't need to be corrupt. They are machines that extract people's money legally. Lol. Hiring temp employees. Besides the low pay and zero respect, there is also the health insurance scams. I had an agency charge me $8,000 per year automatically for a health insurance package that only covered $5,000 after my initial upfront costs of $5,000. In short, I had to pay $13,000 just to get $5,000 worth of coverage. Which was of course denied, claiming a pre-existing condition. Being hit by a car is pre-existing, apparently. Capital M. Biomedical research. It's not so much that no cures and or treatments are being developed. It's that scientists get too competitive to be objective anymore. I've seen scientists look at the many publications a rival has and call all of it bullshit on the grounds that the rival's hypothesis doesn't agree with theirs, and will refuse to ask the question of why it's happening. I've even seen scientists outright yell at each other Jerry Springer style at conferences over their work. There's also the abuses along the line that come with making it a competitive field. Students and postdocs having to be on so many psychotropic or self-medications to deal with abusive bosses is the rule rather than the exception. It gets even harder to stand up for yourself when your boss is an expert in their field. I have a friend who survived a suicide attempt a few years ago thanks to PhD advisor that triggered it. Don't even get me started on what the desire for fame and funding makes scientists do. For example, there was a scientist who was suspected of being murdered in Japan after he found his boss's data had been fabricated. They found a suicide note, but the facts surrounding the suicide made it highly unlikely that it was, considering that they found sodium azide in the victim's system, which is very painful and slow way to die. If anyone wants more jewelry. There's a reason as to why the big four audit firms shy away from auditing SME jewelry shops, as most are family-run shops with unknown sources of money, improper stock records and no formal books. Car dealerships. The buy here pay here are the worst and will try and knock off heads as much as they can. They especially prey on people with bad CR. In Vietnam, being a school teacher is very prestigious and often very corrupt. I can't speak for the whole country, but in the north, people bribe to get the positions, sometimes more than a year's salary in advance. The pay is actually crap, a couple $100 a month at best. But in public schools, you can extort all kinds of perks, gifts and money on Teachers' Day and Women's Day, for example. But the real money maker is after school tutoring. A public school teacher in Hanoi will have between 40 and 60 kids in a class. I've even heard of classes as large as 70 kids. Many teachers will intentionally teach the absolute bare minimum during school, knowing that they're setting the kids up to fail. They then graciously offer to teach supplementary lessons after school for a mere $50,000, around $2 a student per hour. If 15 kids participate, the teacher can earn close to a month's salary in around 7 hours. They might charge more for older students. This is referring to elementary school. Kids end up finishing their academic pursuits at like 8 or 10 at night sometimes. Meanwhile, so that the teacher doesn't have a high fail rate, she encourages talented students to let others cheat off their exams. College rankings. I worked a student job in a program's office of a major university when one of the big magazine publishers that does rankings came in. I sat in on one of the meetings. The rep told the head of the program that if the school bought a subscription to their magazine for all of the students in the program, it would improve the ranking. They did and it did. United Way. Use business leaders to shake down their employees for donations. Most employees would rather just give directly to their favorite charity but are guilted or forced into giving to United Way. Of course, my local United Way puts minorities in high positions so big corporations can feel they are doing social good, but the SIA and others at UW are making $300 K plus. This should be higher. United Way goes to the big boss and says he'll get a plaque for his office as the organization raises X amount. That shit rolls downhill until my boss comes to me strongly suggesting I sign up for a cut of my paycheck going to United Way every 2 weeks. It's a shakedown. Using your employer as the muscle. I used to sell textbooks for 10 years. First, don't buy the book and code. 90% of codes of a digital textbook on its Cengage titles can be the exceptions. They may be code only. Second, never buy the new. Education. More specifically, colleges in the US. The college experience is basically a marketing tool universities use to lure in kids who don't understand the severity of $60,000 plus of debt. Most universities don't even put a majority of their funding into education-related things. Universities will pour money into non-essentials like huge rec centers, nice architecture, landscaping, sport complexes, etc. just so their school attracts more students than the next. Never mind the quality of the education. There's a Netflix doc about how major universities were accused of brushing several sexual assault cases under the rug because if the attacker were to gain publicity, the school might gain a bad reputation, among other bullshit money related reasons. Save your money. Go to community college first. Not really corrupt, per se. But much of the pet care industry is flawed at best and abusive at worst. Fish and hermit crabs regularly die of neglect and misinformation is everywhere. Both goldfish and hermit crabs can easily live past 20 years if properly cared for. Parakeets have the mental aptitude of a 2-year-old human child and should be given veg. Third-party rooftop solar companies. In my line of work I often see blatant lies about utility rate increase expectations from solar installers that are trying to sell a financial product, with a yearly escalator supposedly less than utility rate increases, that comes with the solar panels, and the problem is that utility rates often don't rise as much as the solar installers suggest they do. There are other issues, like shoddy installations and the installers defrauding the government out of tax CR.